Okay, looks like we might have a quorum, but we'll have the city clerk let us know.
Councilman Duper.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tempore Popescu.
Here.
Mayor Rigsby.
Here.
Councilman Daly is absent. I have not heard from Councilman Leonard, but there is a quorum.
Okay, then we'll begin with the invocation and pledge of allegiance by the mayor. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Okay. Does the public wish to speak on any items not on the agenda? It looks like we have several requests for an agenda item. Is there anyone else? Okay, no takers. We'll go to our first item, the public hearing, certificate of appropriateness for demolition of Franz Hall at Loma Academy, community development.
All right. As you recall, Mr. Mayor, council members, as you recall from the meeting last week, the certificate last session, the certificate of appropriateness was denied by the council. So to refresh our memories, the construction at Loma Linda Academy was approved by the City Council and by the Planning Commission with the condition that a certificate of appropriateness be obtained. Typically that happens in the reverse order. A certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of a building is obtained, and then the approvals for the construction of the project. So on this one, the cart came before the horse. To complete this condition of approval, Loma Linda Academy approached the city for a certificate of appropriateness that needs to go to the Historical Commission. We requested that they do a study on the project. I believe you have a copy of the study in front of you with CRM Tech. The analysis of the structure from CRM Tech is that the Franz Hall may be culturally significant. It has not been declared a historic building by any body in the city, so at this point it is not an official historic building. CRM Tech did come up with mitigation measures, a spectrum of them, from including full demolition, photo documentation, archiving of significant plaques or memorabilia from the building, up to restoration, stabilization, and adaptive reuse of the structure. There are costs associated with each possibility, and it's up to the council to weigh the options and come up with through public hearing what the best solution is. Do we want to save the building, keep it in place, restore it, put it to some other use, or is it appropriate to demolish the building and record, or demolish part of the building and record what was there for posterity's sake? You want to speak, Jim?
Only advisory.
Okay. And I believe we have the applicant here if there's any questions from the council, but I believe the CRM Tech report is thorough and comprehensive and kind of lays out the options for you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Is there any statement from the applicant that you'd like to make before we open the public hearing?
Thank you. It's good to be back here a month later. Thank you for considering this. We understand the importance of the many hours spent in the issue of the future of Franz Hall. We all agree that this is a building that has been a significant part of the Academy and by its location of the city. We take seriously our stewardship of resources. It's precisely this reason we come tonight to ask you to allow us to move forward with the plan to remove Franz Hall. I'll begin with our understanding that from the beginning of the most recent building project, the demolition of Franz Hall has been a requirement. There is concern that the proliferation of buildings, the campus and the academy would grow, adding to the congestion already very significant on Anderson Street. The new student services building and the as yet to be built assembly hall are designed to replace the primary functions of Franz Hall. We were allowed to keep Franz Hall during construction because removing it at the beginning of the project and forcing us to relocate the services from that building would have created quite a significant hardship. But now that we have completed the student services building, we are faced with the need to move forward with the master plan. We've considered the possibility of maintaining a portion of Franz Hall. I must admit that some of us find ourselves seeking such a solution, but however, we run up against the same problem of an old, unused building that presents its own challenges. Just leaving unused would still require a significant degree of maintenance and upkeep. Just one example is the need to replace a roof, and that would be a major expense on a tired building that has served us well, but it's no longer needed. One might suggest that we make the building useful. In researching this possibility, we determined that renovating just the east wing alone would bring it up to current safety and building codes would cost approximately $2.9 million. For this investment, we would net only 4 classrooms, 2 large offices, and 2 bathrooms. It would also limit our use of the space for a much-needed North Campus auditorium. Some say that it's just a matter of what we choose to afford. However, at the end of the day, we have only a limited amount of funds, and because we are currently paying back a large amount of bond money used to construct the 2 new buildings on campus, our board has made it clear that we are not to borrow any more for construction. Any capital projects must be accomplished on a pay-as-you-go basis with money raised, and currently there are 2 other projects that are calling for our attention, which need a $4.5 million campaign. In addition, according to our master plan, a North Campus meeting hall is to go to at the current site of the Franz Hall, as we've said, and we are several years away from being prepared to build that structure. So while we recognize that there are pros and cons, we believe the effective use of space, the removal of a potentially attractive nuisance, and a wise stewardship of limited resources at our command dictate that now is the time to move forward with our plans. Let me also add that we embrace our responsibility as stewards of the story. Franz Hall has played a starring role in the history of Loma Linda Academy. We believe that the richness of its heritage and the memory of the man for whom it was named 25 years ago can be memorialized in other ways that will be meaningful and accessible, an option that was proposed by a historical study required of us by the Commission. Indeed, we intend to go beyond the steps that are outlined therein in order to assure that Franz Hall is not forgotten. So in summary, we come tonight to ask you to grant us a certificate of appropriateness so we can move forward with our master plan, allowing us to proceed with the removal of Franz Hall. Thank you.
Any questions? I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the budget for demolition?
Right now we see about $575,000.
Okay. And if you were to renovate the east wing, as you stated, for $2.9 million, then you'd still have to do significant.
Basically, there would be no savings to the $575,000. It would be really 2.9 above and beyond that.
Okay. And do you have plans for that space? Is it part of the campus master plan?
Well, part of the main master plan would be putting the North Campus auditorium in that area. In the meantime, it would be just planning a field, a student gathering place. But ultimately, that is the location for an auditorium.
You bear with me because I'm losing my voice. Is there ultimate plan to put some other type of frontage building up there? And I think what a lot of people identify with the academy is that picture there right off of Anderson. So is there another plan to do something like that, or?
In the meantime, or that building will be fronted right there. The intent for the new building will be in essence the same footprint. So that will be the new visual as you come on Anderson.
But not necessarily the welcoming office space.
No, that remains where it is off Academy Way.
Are you tearing down the building all the way back to the library and the chapel, or you're keeping
The ultimate plan would be to remove the whole area, yes.
So initially, what part would you be tearing down?
Our plans are to tear it all down, if necessary, in stages. We would start with the west wing, with the chapel and the library.
And you would do that first?
That would be the first.
I
yes.
see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank you.
We may recall you for further comments later. I have requests here, and I'll just take them in order. Dick Wiley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. One thing I talked with him earlier this evening about, and we also talked about it at Historic Commission. I would hope that you make sure before any of that is torn down that you get video of it and you get photos. For the simple fact that if it's something that can be put into archiving here, later on somebody will come back and say, some of the older people or ones that have graduated, what does it look like? I did this, I graduated here. And you bring your kids back and they say, I don't know. I mean, it's not there. You can't put a picture with the reality of something new. Or you go up here and say, we used to have a house up here in the Groves. There's only homes there now. But just a way of being able to recall history, or if somebody makes notation of it. And I think it's not too hard for them to do. They said they'd be willing to do it. I said, you could have maybe some of the students do the video and the photos, because that way you don't have to have it done. The other thing is, I heard, and according to what they were saying, there is your cement block sort of piers under there that all the wood comes down. Now that construction is basically gone. You don't see a lot of that around here. I said, asked him, I said, could we document that so that you could see what structures and how they were built in a bygone era? So if something like this can be put in as a portion of what they have to do before they get into tearing it down, or as they tear it down, to be able to see this and show how construction was done. So just that type of thing. But I think a lot of pictures that I have seen, you had the footsteps out there and going into Franz Hall, and that's where graduation pictures were taken. Now, whether there's any way of maybe redoing that, keeping those steps, whatever, so that here's your pattern. You've got all these kids that come through and say, these are where the pictures are taken. I don't know what's in the plans for the new one, but this could be going on into history. So just a little idea that hopefully, I hate to see something disappear and then say, we can't recreate it. And if we do this before things are gone, not only with that, but anything around this town, you know, a big advocate for that, of trying to have it so that we can recall, at least through video or photos or that type of thing. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next is Chris Johnston.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. 26 years ago, as a student representative of the Loma Academy Student Senate, I came before this council seeking permission to name what we called Academy Way after one of our teachers, Mr. Franz. The council politely told us that we should go back to campus and name something on campus after Mr. Franz rather than the city street, which we did, and that was the genesis of the naming of Franz Hall. I'm a 13-year student, graduate of Loma Linda Academy, grew up in Loma Linda, and now return as the chairman of the school board of Loma Linda Academy to speak with you briefly. This matter was brought before the school board and those constituencies represented there. It was debated vigorously. The concern was also there that we recognize the history and the importance Franz Hall played in the history of Loma Linda Academy by appropriately documenting and recording it. But after that discussion, the board did vote without objection that Franz Hall be removed. One of the primary considerations is that an empty building with significant risk based on both its current structure as well as the risk of having an empty building on campus needed to be removed. And so the board moved that this building be removed and that the administration was directed to take all actions necessary to accomplish that task. So I would urge the council at this time to approve the Academy's request. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, Fred Simmental.
I'm Fred Simmental, Mr. Mayor, council members. I've been the construction manager for Loma Linda Academy through their master plan. I have been underneath Franz Hall as a builder, and it just, with the fires in 1947, the floods of '69 left the building basically unmanageable as far as maintenance. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of energy to just save the superstructure underneath that building. I'm going to make my statement very short. When I was hired on for Loma Linda Academy, Dr. Rue McKenzie charged me with, make every dollar count, Fred. And I think spending $3 million for an 8,000 square foot storage is not what we need to justify our stewardship. I don't see the asbestos wall of there in front of the building savable, and because it's friable, and we would have to probably replaster the whole thing and change. It would be hard to take the asbestos off and encapsulated. I just want to tell the council that I think, in my heart, I'm an alumni, 50 years coming this year, that Loma Linda is a great place, and I think we have a lot of future in line. Thank you.
Okay, next is Bill Arnold.
I would defer my statement, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay, that's all of the written requests. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Looks like there's some motion from Mr. Heinrich.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Kerry Heinrich speaking on behalf of the proposal from the Academy. I chaired the board for quite a number of years and went through a very detailed process with the architects, with the planning group for the Academy, the construction committee, and multiple presentations about Franz Hall. I can assure you we looked every way possible to save that building, to be stewards of that building, to be mindful of our history and the building's history in the community, and from just construction costs, from hazardous materials concern, and certainly from seismic concerns. It was the considered opinion of multiple people who looked at that building that it simply could not be saved and simply could not function appropriately for the Academy. Ultimately, then, the plan was designed to move to a large auditorium to meet the Academy's needs. It may be some time before financially we can afford to do that, but the only real footprint under the master plan to put that auditorium in is exactly where Franz Hall sits. But the view of the board was we would forego that, save the building if it was possible to do that. The conclusion was, from multiple different analyses, that that would not be possible. So I would urge the board to give consideration of the request of the Academy, giving account for the significant effort that's been put into studying this from every way possible as to whether it could be saved. And I would urge approval of the Academy's request. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up question. Having gone to the Academy and actually had Mr. Franz as my teacher of government and being present when he passed away and even attended his funeral, are there any efforts being made to name another building after him, as far as you know?
I know that that's been looked at. I can assure you the Academy will not be unmindful of the contributions of Mr. Franz, and although I can't commit from where the Academy is with that, it certainly will be studied, and we will not forget Mr. Franz.
Okay, thank you.
I'd entertain changing the name of the street.
Perhaps Chris Johnson can bring that issue back.
Yeah, good idea.
Can you afford a sign?
That's right. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, seeing none, then what's the pleasure of the council? I will close the public hearing, and we will proceed to an action.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this certificate and we move forward.
I'll second that. Just a general statement that it's clear that there was really no other alternative. So if there was another one, I think we would have considered it. Go ahead.
Okay. We'll talk about the form
Mr. Mayor,
of the motion. Yes.
may I recommend that the motion include the findings set forth in the Municipal Code, Chapter 17.80.120, C 1 through 5, and that the mayor be authorized to sign the certificate of appropriateness with those findings as prepared by staff hereafter.
I will amend my motion to what he said.
And I will second that.
One more amendment, if we can, that you specify that there is photo recordation and that appropriate memorabilia be archived.
I tend to believe that probably goes without saying. I'm sure that they are going to document very thoroughly that building, and there's a lot of history and a lot of photographs already, so we can say it, and I'm sure they're going to do it.
I would agree with that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Would those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. In favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, no. It's unanimous. Thank you all very much. It's a kind of a sobering time when institutions that have served so well are cast aside, but I think there's a good plan to memorialize the building. And we, as with last time, we thank the Historical Commission for your valuable input. And thank you all. We have, as usual, a very exciting agenda for the rest, and you're all welcome to stay, but we won't be shocked if you leave. The consent calendar is available.
I will move the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved unanimously. Old business, joint meeting of City Council and Housing Authority Board, so I call that board to order pertaining to consideration of a submittal letter to the County of San Bernardino for affordable senior housing.
Okay. It's old business. This is relating to the senior housing project on Poplar Street. Phase 1 was completed last week. People are moving in, and actually one of the success stories on Phase 1, it's a little off subject, but we had a senior that was homeless and living in their car here in the Civic Center parking lot several years ago. We had some real issues getting her placed and taken care of, and they found her a place at the apartments over there, and so she has a home. So it is a success story. With the car's not there. I don't think there's enough pieces of it left to. But anyway, there is a success story with that. The San Bernardino County has approached city staff that they have home funds available to do a second phase on the senior project. The existing builder, Corporation for Better Housing, is willing to do phase 2 and apply for those funds. So what staff is asking for is a letter of support for the city and Corporation for Better Housing to apply, not the city, the Housing Authority and Corporation for Better Housing to apply for those funds. Any questions?
So a letter of support would not be an approval of a project. I know it's approved, but it would not be necessarily the final step in its progress.
The project has planning approval and is entitled to be completed at some future date. They have their start with phase 1, so we don't go back into design phase with that. The letter of approval would though authorize Corporation for Better Housing to seek those funds, and would be the trigger for staff to engage in developing a DDA to build that second phase. Theoretically, that DDA would match the one for phase 1. As it currently sits, there would be no city cash input into the project. The city's or the housing authority's contribution would be the land only, and as in phase 1, the developer would pay all building plan check, permitting, and development impact fees. Last time for phase 1, it was north of $550,000. I think it was $570 something. So it's a fairly substantial fees that the city does recover on that. So there's no cash outlay and no other investment into the project other than committing the entitled property to it.
Does the entitlement have a time limit, as do other entitlements?
The work began, which stopped the time limit clock. So since phase 1 is completed, we're now in a phasing, and there is no condition in the entitlement that the entire project has to be completed at any point in time. So theoretically, to take it to the absurd, 100 years from now, somebody can come and finish the project.
Is there any second bite at the apple in terms of the entitlement with regard to amenities that could be extracted from this council at this time?
The conditions of approval allow staff to make a 10%, a nebulous, it's not clearly defined what 10% is, change. Generally, that's designed to handle changes that come up in the plan check process, some changes in material effectiveness. Typically, those amenities, as long as they were not a reduction in amenities, could, and we're not involving reciting the building or doing anything dramatic, we could fold into that 10% change to the project.
What I was interested in is that, let's say that the council is wavering, as in the past, on the approval of this project, but feels that on inspection of phase 1 that maybe phase 2 could have a few more amenities, and if that's the contingency upon which the approval would go forward, is that something that could be negotiated, or would it be considered an affront to the entitlement?
That within reason, it could be discussed, and the Corporation for Better Housing is open to enhancing some of those amenities and looking at some of the mix of the amenities. For example, there's some garden space that's called out for the amenities. In discussion with the existing management and the existing projects there, is they're looking at taking over the city community garden around the corner and managing that, which would negate the need for that garden space, and we could use that for some other type of use. To put an amusement park ride would be outside that 10%. To change the gardens or put a bocce ball court or expand a clubhouse or something like that falls well within that realm.
10% of 100 rooms would be fairly significant.
Yes. And like I said, it's a fairly nebulous, as long as we are cognizant that we're not going to redesign this project and that what is actually built reflects the intent and the approval of what Planning Commission and you as council has approved. We should be safe.
Okay. Comments? I'm sure there will be some.
Just briefly, had a chance to go see the project. I've been fairly vocal that I wasn't in favor of it initially. Upon seeing the first stage, I was impressed with what they had accomplished. I think that, given the state of the neighborhood, it's definitely improving it. I met with the folks and I expressed them a few concerns about some amenities that I think can be approved, and a few of the suggestions I came up with would be that I really wanted them to add Wi-Fi routers to the rest of the buildings, since we are requiring that they put in fiber optics to begin with. I also felt that the outside garden area could be beefed up a little bit, especially in the second phase, and I think there's some great ideas for that can be implemented, and I don't see that as a major financial issue. The one thing that I think definitely needs to be improved in the project is that the first building does have a community center / library. It is nice, however, I feel it's kind of small, so given the size of the overall project of 90 units, they definitely need to have a much larger community-type room. So I'm suggesting that they add that to that second phase, and I'm hoping that they would be able to do that. Having said that, I would be in favor of sending a letter of recommendation for this project to the county.
I also took a tour, and of course my line of questioning was on the lines of public safety and what type of relationship they have with the sheriff's department, and they assured me that they're active in crime-free multi-housing and that they've got a good relationship with our crime prevention officer and the department as a whole, and making sure crime is deterred. And I also agree that it really does kind of improve the look of the whole neighborhood down there. So I'm in favor of it also, unless the chief has any ideas or contrary. So I think it's a good idea.
And staff will work with the applicant on those amenities and report back to you on what we come up with on that.
My question about Wi-Fi is that in affordable housing, do we sell Wi-Fi to them, or do we sell cable fiber optic access to the individual people, or is that something we're not allowed to do because it adds to the cost? And would putting Wi-Fi up unnecessarily eliminate a revenue stream to our? They are.
The
Okay.
building is already cabled and wired
that answers that question.
for the fiber optic system, and we are able to provide service to individual customers there. To provide wide open Wi-Fi for everybody, probably I'd imagine or guess it would be something like here, that it's a low bandwidth, low use thing to kind of supplement and not be streaming video and that type of application.
Okay. Is there a comment from? Go ahead, please come up. Yeah.
Justin Hart, Corporation for Better Housing. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just to elaborate on the Wi-Fi, we can certainly provide the Wi-Fi access on the lobby areas, free for use for all residents or tenants or visitors at the sites.
Okay.
I wasn't so much concerned about the lobby area, but the ability for the tenants not to be forced to have their computers plugged in, but rather to be able to connect to the internet by Wi-Fi. I know that they could provide their own routers, but I think it would be an extra amenity that should be able to be provided to them.
As they are wired into the Connected Community program and can opt to be part of that program, and as part of that, we do offer a wireless access point.
That would work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, is there any special form or reference to obscure laws that we should make, or is this just a simple motion?
Yes. I'll make the motion that we provide the letter.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other discussion about it? Is there any opposition? Okay, it's unanimous, which is required to pass it with only 3 people here, so congratulations. Next is new business, item 8, Council Bill R-2013-25, adopting the Measure I 5-year capital improvement program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Even though it said 5 years CAP, it seemed like they asked us to review and approve this every year. This is a Measure I, which is the half-cent sale tax that the voter approved back in November 2004 to renew a Measure I from 2010-2040. As you see on the board here, for the city of Loma Linda, for this fiscal year, we expect to receive about $350,000, and then additional 3% after that. So we see approximately $10,000 a year in addition from this year. This money can only be used for transportation, which is like pavement rehabilitation, street, sidewalk, striping, traffic signal, and so forth. What we plan to do with this funding is, well, it's kind of small. This map here shows what we have accomplished the past 12 years. We pretty much paved the street, every street in town. Now, the street can be rehab, like just as simple as a surface seal, or complete reconstruction, like remove existing pavement, the base, and put in a new section, and including the sub base and asphalt. Or If the subbase is in good condition, we will usually grind the top 1 inches of pavement and put in a new pavement. Tonight, you just award a contract to do a pavement rehabilitation on Park from Poplar Street to Curtis, and Cottage from Poplar Street to Curtis, Lilac, Loma, and Poplar Street from the flood control channel to Redlands Boulevard. Since that project, since the street is in bad condition, so what we plan to do on that street is we're going to grind, remove a tent, and overlay with a new asphalt. But on Poplar Street, we did that pavement rehabilitation about 10 years ago. So on that one, we're just going to do a surface seal and give a nice coat of striping. But this project are funded by the county CDBG grant. For the Measure I for this fiscal year, we're using that money for Stewart Street between Anderson and Campus Street, and also about $60,000 to remove and replace the old sidewalk, and also put in a new sidewalk by the post office on Newport Street. So even though we will give them information for the next 5 years, but I have to come back to the city council every year to approve the funding for each individual years. And so staff recommend that the city council approve the 5-year CIP plan and allow me to forward that to Sandbag for their approval. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm very impressed with the work done on Barton Road the last time. With
Yes, rubberized.
With the rubberized asphalt, and it looks to me like it's not cracking nearly
Yes.
as fast.
What's so nice about rubber is when the temperature heat up, is give a little cushion to the rubber in the asphalt itself. All our surface seal that we use in town is rubberized asphalt also. It's rubberized surface seal also. We add the latex to it.
So I know it's a slight increase in
Yes.
cost. Are you planning to use rubberized asphalt in all grind and repave operations, or only those with high volume?
With a high volume. With a high volume, yes.
Because it looks like it's doing so well, it might save money in the long run.
Yes, it is. But what happening is because
on lower, even the smaller streets tend to develop cracks very quickly.
Yes, that's why for residential street we go with a rubberized surface seal. Even surface seal is rubberized, and with a rubberized surface seal is the oil that come out is thicker, and so it will fill up all the crack at the same time as when you pave it. So, and it's dark longer, it's quieter than the conventional asphalt.
It just seems to me, not having the budget right in front of my face at all times like you have, it seems like it might be wise in the long run whenever we do a grind and repave
Yes.
to use the rubberized, because it's a slight increase in cost of maybe 20%.
Yes, I agree. And just like we did Lawton,
Yeah.
that's a rubberized also, we grind overlay. So, and because our streets are in good shape, for the next 8 years, 7 to 8 years, we go with just a conventional surface seal.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you. So they're asking us to approve the plan, the program. What's your pleasure?
I'll go ahead and move to adopt
Second.
Measure I funding.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved. Number 9, Planning Commission. We have one applicant for the vacancy.
Is the applicant here?
No, she's not.
Okay. I would like to make a suggestion. I did look at the application. I was very impressed with her answers. However, not having seen this person or met them before, I would like to have asked them some questions. I'm uncomfortable making a decision on this without actually speaking to the person in front of us, having not seen them before.
I think we kind of set a precedent on that also.
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm also actually suggesting that we reopen the application process. I would like to have choices. I don't want to be forced on just looking at approving one person. So maybe if we can reopen the application process to try and get more people to apply so we have some compare and contrast like we have in the past.
I don't know if you sent out the invitation or told them about tonight, but did you invite them or invite her?
No, I was unable to make contact with her. I can certainly try and put it back on the agenda for next time.
Well, let's open it up.
I want to make sure that we open it back up
Yeah.
and we come back, yes.
Yeah, I would be comfortable if we would open it back up, at least for 2 or 3 weeks, and then let the word out that, because we do need more applicants. This is a very important position, and we need to make sure we choose wisely.
Okay, so can you take that as advice to staff without a vote? Okay. Then that's the approach we'll take. Are there any reports of councilmen? Maybe the talkative ones didn't show up tonight. Any reports of officers? Okay, then we'll adjourn the council and we'll go back to our housing authority. Finish that. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
The consent calendar is, would the public like to speak on any item not on the agenda? Hearing none, the consent calendar is available for your vote. Motion?
I go ahead and move the consent calendar.
I guess I'm locked into the second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved. Number 4, we already took care of that. Any member reports? Any reports of officers? Okay, the Housing Authority is adjourned. Now the Public Financing Authority rarely meets, but are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Would the public like to speak on any topic at all? Because the agenda is so short, almost anything else is fair game. Hearing none, what about the minutes? We didn't put it as a consent calendar, but we'll do the minutes separately. They're thrilling, riveting. You can move this time.
Okay, I'll move it.
I'll second.
You just didn't want to be first again, huh?
Yeah. Okay, any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none is approved. Item 2, amended and restated agreement for services from Mr. Hipsch and Company.
You already approved that in
Oh, we did.
yes, the consent calendar on the...
Okay, then we'll just acknowledge.
Oh, you want a different one?
Yes, this is actually for the Financing Authority. It was not part of the other, but
Okay. Well, it's a rare time when I was right. Okay. Any motion?
I'll go ahead and move the consent item for the Financing Authority.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved. We are adjourned. And the City Council as successor agency. Any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Would the public like to speak on this topic? Okay, I don't see any. The consent calendar is available for your consideration.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved. Reports of officers, there's an oral report pertaining to the ROPS. We had a nice meeting, and I missed it. So tell me what happened.
Yes, I would like to give you an update on ROPS 4 that we just submitted to the State Department of Finance last week. We meet the deadline, by the way, so.
Mayor, council members, the ROPS 5, but the new labeling system, they do it by fiscal year and then by a 6-month period, so it's actually ROPS 13-14B. That was presented on September 24th to the Oversight Board Committee for approval. It is a new format as well. DOF has structured a new website that you actually upload the format into this website for their review. There is more extensive work on reconciling prior periods as well, as far as expenditures, and then we're also having to do a reconciliation of fund balance and any money that is unspent and then gets carried over. We have to identify that as well in the ROPS. These are estimates as going forward, and they are only allowing us to place recognized enforceable obligations on these. Currently, most of ours have dwindled down to just our bond payments, any contractual services associated with the bond payments as far as trustee, continuing disclosure documentations that we have to provide, and any arbitrage reports that we have to provide as well associated with. And then we do have a participation agreement with a local vendor, Annexter, which is also pretty much winding down as well. So those are our obligations. We do have an administrative budget of $125,000 on the ROPS. And we do a separate budget. It's now one line item with an administrative budget identified and presented as an exhibit to the ROPS. Those are pretty much the items. There are 2 items that we are placing on the ROPS that are in question and were questioned by members of the Oversight Board, which are related to the loans between the city and the former RDA agency that were then reapproved by the Oversight Board and are part of our current litigation with the DOF.
Were they approved during the window of between the original elimination and the modification of the law?
Correct.
Okay, so there's at least a not a reported precedent, but there's at least one judge that sided with the city similar to our situation. So
There are two, I believe now 3 cases that judge has sided with that those loans are enforceable obligations.
And perchance, is that our judge?
I don't believe he is our judge in the litigation suit. We are DOF. We submitted the ROPS to DOF on October 1st. They have questioned that line item. We have asked for legal counsel to draft some language citing those cases and the ruling of the judge to hopefully get that item approved on the ROPS.
Yeah. To me, it's embarrassing for the Department of Finance to have to be quoted Marbury versus Madison in a judge's order. I think that's just classic. I mean, it's the oldest precedent in the United States, just about 1803, Marbury versus Madison. 1801, I think it's 1801. That's about as far back as it goes.
So.
Yeah, the legislature declared that their new enactment was what they meant all along, and the judge slapped them back and said, "It is the province of the judicial branch to say what the law is," quoting Chief Justice John Marshall. I think that's great. So, okay, any other reports of officers?
When is our next council meeting?
November 12th.
Okay. So we added this one because it wasn't part of the original.
Oh, this is our standard.
This is our standard.
This is the second Tuesday of the...
So it was the previous one. Okay. So there's some confusion about which ones we're having and when.
It's
okay.
It's the second Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Any other reports of officers? Okay, then we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Hope we didn't excite you too much.